All right, so we're back at it. I'm just literally bouncing back in here, recording some videos after watching the press conference, the UFC press conference that they had. They brought out a bunch of fighters, just let us know how many fights they were having that were coming up, and all of them look interesting. But I think the big thing at the moment, instead of, outside of Conor versus Khabib, was Nate Diaz is back. Nate Diaz, who's been literally hiding under a rock. He said he was in a lawsuit or something like that. But the thing about Nate Diaz is the guy comes off as punch drunk at times because he just doesn't communicate very well. I understand we all love Nate Diaz, and I do too. I like Nate Diaz, especially out of the Diaz brothers. I like Nate Diaz. I like his fighting style. And there's just a thing about Nate. There's a thing about him. But, the news came out that he was already back and he was already booked to fight Dustin Poirier. Okay, so that happened. But then he shows up to the press conference late, which kind of took a little bit of wind out of it. It took a little bit of wind out of the sails in terms of being excited about the fight. And then when Nate Diaz got there, he just seemed to be... he was Nate Diaz, I guess. He still needed to get out of his, out of his head or out of his zone or whatever, because Nate Diaz does have a way that he is. He's a silent guy. He's not a big talker, but there was something that fell flat about it to me. He literally had like a couple of words to say. He just said like 2 or 3 comments, and they were all very, very short. The people were like, "Oh, you're back after 2 years. What brought you back?" He was like, I had a lawsuit that I was going through, and I didn't he's talking about this lawsuit. He's like, I didn't know. Somebody should have told y'all. Yeah, you're the person who would have told us that you were in a lawsuit. Who else would have told the fans, the people that have been waiting to watch you in a fight, that you were in a lawsuit? Somebody should have told y'all. Nate, that guy is a character. I don't know who's going to play him in the movie, but that guy better do some serious acting classes because Nate Diaz is complex. I mean, seriously, that guy is incredibly complex. After going on and on and on about how he wasn't going to come back into fight unless he was making $10 million. I mean, I guess he kind of... If fighters want more money, you can't complain about that. They need to be paid more. They really do need to be paid more, but Nate Diaz, interesting, and then there was also some beef after the fight was announced, after the press conference. I'm actually going to do a separate video about that because it's just more in depth. It's more in depth. But right now, Diaz versus Dustin Poirier is booked for November 3rd, that Madison Square Garden card. I mean, this is an interesting fight. Dustin Poirier is just looking like he's looking unbeatable these days. And Nate Diaz hasn't been out there for Diaz is just he's not the guy he doesn't care about competing. He really does just want to get paid. He wants to get paid. So, I don't know who I would call as a favorite on this one because Diaz is such an anomaly. He really is. But I'm excited about the matchup. That's what I can say right now. Anyways, guys, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button.